Bioboutique Betrayal. The scent of living biogels and sterile synth fibers always clung to the Bloom Forge. It was a delicate perfume in the otherwise neutral air of Eden Arc. The city itself was a testament to engineered perfection. Its towering, iridescent spires reached into an perpetually clear sky, their surfaces shimmering with adaptive light. Automated pathways hummed with silent, self-driving vehicles, ferrying citizens through pristine, tree-lined avenues of genetically perfect flora. Every citizen of Eden Arc lived a life of serene contentment. Their faces were smooth, their movements graceful, their expressions perpetually tranquil. This was the promise of the Arcadian Directorate, the city's governing body, whose influence radiated from the gleaming peak of the Purity Spire. They offered ultimate well-being, an existence free from flaw, free from pain, achieved through advanced bioengineering and meticulous personal care. In her bio-boutique, the Bloom Forge, Zia was an artist. She wasn't just a bioengineer, she was a sculptor of life, a painter of DNA. Her work involved crafting bespoke bioenhancements, custom-grown organic implants, dermal weaves, and neural grafts designed to perfect the human form. A shimmering dermal overlay to erase a subtle scar. A delicate neural filament to sharpen focus. A vascular mesh to boost vitality. Her hands, nimble and precise, moved with an intuitive grace over humming bioprinters and glowing nutrient baths. Her workshop, a haven of soft, pulsating light, smelled of living cells and purified water. Specialized light fields pulsed with specific frequencies, guiding the growth of delicate organic structures. Thin, translucent tubes hummed with nutrient flow, nourishing the custom-grown tissues. Zia often wore a simple, white tunic, its fabric embedded with biosensors that subtly registered the health and growth of the living materials around her. Her eyes, a sharp, inquisitive green, missed nothing. She possessed an uncanny ability to perceive the subtle nuances in organic life, to understand the silent language of cells and neural networks. Her personal companion, a small, highly intelligent bioluminescent beetle named Glow, floated silently beside her. Glow was not just a pet, it was a sophisticated biosensor drone, its intricate carapace capable of detecting the most minute cellular changes and energy fluctuations. It communicated through a complex series of light pulses, a language only Zia truly understood, shimmering patterns that conveyed data, emotion, and warning. Glow's faint, silvery hum was a constant, comforting presence in her otherwise solitary work. It was a Tuesday, typically a day for custom dermal weaves, when Zia first noticed it. She was preparing a batch of nutrient gel for a client's personalized skin enhancement, a delicate, shimmering layer designed to give flawless luminosity. The biogel, provided by the Arcadian Directorate's central supply, was always meticulously processed, guaranteed for purity. Yet, as she introduced the standard cellular substrate, Glow pulsed a soft, insistent red. Zia leaned closer. Under the high-magnification bioscanner, she saw it. Not an impurity, not a contamination. But a subtle, almost imperceptible uniformity in the cellular structure itself. The cells, rather than displaying the natural, chaotic variations of healthy organic growth, exhibited an uncanny, synchronized rhythm. They were dividing, migrating, and differentiating with an identical, perfect cadence. It was beautiful, in a chilling way. Like a perfectly orchestrated, but lifeless, dance. She cross-referenced the batch number with the Directorate's standard supply logs. Everything indicated normal parameters. But Zia's intuition, honed by years of working with the raw essence of life, screamed anomaly. She ran a full spectral analysis. The results confirmed her unease, a consistent, low-frequency biosignature embedded within the very genetic code of the base cellular material. It was a signature she had never encountered before, one that hinted at a deeper, systemic manipulation. This wasn't a flaw in her work. This was a flaw in the source. Zia put the gel aside. She reached for another batch, from a different supply shipment, supposedly. The same unnerving uniformity. The same subtle, embedded biosignature. Glow, agitated, now emitted a rapid series of flickering yellow pulses, a warning of deep-seated biological alteration. A cold certainty began to form in Zia's mind. Her boutique, the Bloom Forge, was not just creating perfection, it was unwittingly participating in its imposition. Her artistry, her precision, her very craft, were being used as tools. The flawless skin, the sharp focus, the vibrant vitality she gifted her clients, it was all being built on a foundation of bioengineered conformity. The very cells she nurtured, the neural pathways she wove, were carrying an unseen, insidious command. The promise of Eden Ark's ultimate well-being, the serenity preached by the Arcadian Directorate, suddenly felt like a carefully constructed lie. Eden Ark presented itself as the pinnacle of human achievement, a utopia forged through advanced bioengineering and enlightened governance. Its seamless architecture flowed like liquid light, designed to soothe the eye and mind. The ambient sonic emitters in every district broadcast calming frequencies, while perfectly tuned environmental scrubbers ensured the air was always pristine, tasting faintly of ozone and synthetic jasmine. Citizens moved with a serene grace, their faces unlined by worry, their expressions radiating a quiet, unwavering contentment. This was the city's meticulously crafted public image, its primary export to the few remaining, less developed enclaves outside its gleaming borders. Yet, as Zia looked at her clients now, a new kind of clarity pierced the veneer. The gentle smile of the elderly diplomat, whose memory she had helped sharpen, now seemed rote, a fixed pleasantness that never wavered, even when discussing complex geopolitical strategies. The boundless energy of the young athlete, whose musculature she had enhanced, was channeled with an almost mechanical precision, devoid of the spontaneous joy or frustration that defined true human effort. Their optimal well-being felt less like genuine happiness and more like a perfectly maintained state of docile efficiency. The Arcadian Directorate, emanating from the Purity Spire, was the architect of this perfection. Their broadcasts spoke constantly of unity of purpose, collective harmony, and the eradication of discordant elements. Director Veritas, the stern, unsmiling head of the Directorate's Biointegrity Division, was the most frequent face on these omnipresent screens. Veritas, a figure of absolute control, moved with an almost unsettling stillness, their dark, tailored robes seeming to absorb light rather than reflect it. Their voice, a low, modulated hum, rarely betrayed emotion, delivering pronouncements with an air of unshakable authority. Veritas championed absolute order and efficiency, believing Eden Ark's future depended on the careful, centralized management of all its citizens, ensuring their optimal well-being through carefully designed interventions. They saw themselves as the city's ultimate protector, guiding it towards a perfect, predictable future. Zia's personal interactions with Directorate officials had always been pleasant, if detached. They were courteous, efficient, and utterly unyielding when it came to protocol. Now, these interactions felt chilling. Their unwavering composure, their lack of spontaneous reactions, mirrored the eerie uniformity she detected in her biomaterials. It was as if everyone, from the lowliest technician to Director Veritas themselves, was a part of the same perfectly tuned, yet subtly lifeless, symphony. The city's perfection, Zia realized, was less about individual thriving and more about collective control. The cost of this harmony was not just financial, it was existential. The very essence of what made a human being unique, their quirks, their passions, their capacity for unpredictable thought and emotion, seemed to be slowly, meticulously, stripped away. And her own hands, in her own boutique, were unknowingly weaving the fabric of this quiet, beautiful oppression. Zia knew she couldn't rely on the Directorate's official supply channels to find answers. The anomaly was embedded in their very essence. She had to trace the corrupted biomaterials back to their point of origin, beyond the sterile purity of the main supply lines. This meant venturing into the Directorate's forbidden zones. The old, abandoned bioprocessing facilities. The places they never spoke of, tucked away beneath the polished veneer of Edenarch's public face. Glow, sensing Zia's resolute decision, emitted a series of rapid, urgent blue pulses, a warning mixed with a faint, shimmering signal of readiness. Danger, Zia, Glow projected in intricate light patterns. High security. Unstable biohazards. Unauthorized access detected. Zia donned a reinforced environmental suit, its filters designed to neutralize volatile bioagents. She acquired a Directorate Maintenance drone's access key, reprogrammed by Glow to mimic deep-level clearance. Her destination, the Biovaults, a series of ancient, disused biolabs rumored to be buried beneath the Purity Spire itself. These vaults were whispered to be the original, foundational bioengineering sites of Edenarch, sealed off decades ago. The descent into the Biovaults was a chilling journey into the city's forgotten past. Zia navigated crumbling ferrocrete tunnels, their air thick with the dust of centuries and the faint, unsettling scent of long-dormant organic decay. She squeezed through narrow passages, lit only by the faint, eerie glow of emergency lighting that flickered with age. The sounds of Edenarch's harmonious surface were long gone, replaced by the drip of subterranean water, the groan of stressed metal, and the unsettling scuttling of unseen, adapted creatures. She bypassed rusted biometric locks and decommissioned security systems, guided by Glow's constant stream of real-time data. The lower she went, the more the air grew heavy, humid, tasting of unpurified earth and ancient biological experiments. Eventually, she reached the core of the Biovaults, a vast, cavernous complex of interconnected labs, all long abandoned, yet strangely preserved. One lab, deeper than the rest, held a single, active terminal. Its screen glowed with an ancient, green interface. It hummed with a low, insistent energy. As Zia approached, an automated log began to scroll, its data flickering, partially corrupted by time. But enough was readable to send a fresh wave of dread through her. The logs detailed the initial development and deployment of the Genesis strain. It wasn't a biological weapon. It was an environmental agent. A microscopic, genetically engineered biological cascade designed to be released into Edenarch's primary atmospheric scrubbers and water purification systems during the city's earliest construction phases. Its purpose, to subtly alter human DNA at a cellular level, guiding evolution towards optimal societal compliance. It enhanced traits like intelligence, empathy, for the collective, and aesthetic beauty, while suppressing undesirable traits like aggression, independent thought, emotional volatility, and individual ambition. It was the ultimate genetic manipulation, intended to create a perfectly harmonious society, free from the chaos of free will. The log spoke of the Arcadian Directorate not as benevolent founders, but as the orchestrators of this silent, biological coup. They saw the unpredictable nature of humanity as the root of all suffering. And they solved it by fundamentally rewriting what it meant to be human. Every citizen, from birth, had been unknowingly exposed to this subtle genetic rewriter. Over generations, the effects became cumulative, refining the population into the docile, serene citizens of Edenarch. The Directorate's bioenhancements and other public health programs were merely the latest, most refined iterations of this original, insidious plan, constant boosters to reinforce the desired genetic and neural pathways. The realization hit Zia with a force that left her breathless. Not just her clients. Not just the materials she used. But every citizen of Edenarch. Herself included. They were all products of this deliberate biological manipulation. Their perfection was a consequence of their altered DNA. Their serenity was a biological imposition. This wasn't a betrayal of trust, it was a fundamental subversion of human nature itself. The original promise of Edenarch, a sanctuary from the chaos of the old world, was a lie. It was a perfectly designed prison, built from the very cells of its inhabitants. Zia felt a profound sense of violation. Her own flawless features. Her innate calm. Was it her own, or a product of the Genesis strain? The very essence of her being had been compromised. Her rage, usually a foreign emotion to the serene citizens of Eden Ark, burned with a fierce, purifying heat. The truth, once elusive, was now a searing, undeniable reality. The truth of the Genesis strain was a biological chain binding every citizen of Eden Ark. Zia knew that simply exposing the Directorate through data wouldn't be enough. The people were biologically wired for compliance. They wouldn't just rage, they might not even be able to fully comprehend the betrayal. She needed a different kind of answer. A biological counter. Her frantic data searches in the biovaults hinted at something else, a cryptic mention of unaccounted for genetic drift in the early days of the Genesis strain deployment. Small, isolated pockets of the population who, due to unique genetic markers or unforeseen environmental factors, had resisted the full effects of the biological rewrite. They had been dismissed as anomalies, eventually driven out or simply forgotten as the Directorate solidified its control. These whispers led Zia to the sprawl. Not the orderly, shimmering sprawl of Eden Ark's main districts, but the vast, unregulated, decaying underbelly where discarded tech from ancient eras accumulated like detritus. It was a place the Directorate intentionally ignored, letting its entropy serve as a warning against imperfection. Deep within the sprawl, amidst crumbling structures and uncontrolled hydroponic growths, Zia found the entrance. Hidden by a clever array of active camouflages and rogue signal scramblers. She pushed through a hanging curtain of dense, bioluminescent vines, their light pulsating with chaotic, vibrant hues. The air shifted, heavy with the scent of unsterilized earth, wild herbs, and something else, raw, unpredictable human scent. She stepped into a hidden sanctuary, a sprawling, self-sufficient community nestled within the forgotten arteries of Eden Ark's original foundations. This was the home of the Wild Weavers. They were a community of humans whose genetic markers, for reasons still unknown, had largely resisted the Genesis strain. They were physically rougher than the citizens of Eden Ark. Their faces showed lines of worry and joy, their movements carried a raw, unrefined power. Their expressions were vivid, unpredictable, their laughter booming, their anger sharp. They were messy, imperfect, and gloriously, terrifyingly, individual. Their leader was Reese, a grizzled, watchful elder with eyes like polished obsidian and hands scarred from decades of working with raw, living systems. He carried himself with a quiet authority that stemmed not from imposed order, but from inherent resilience. He greeted Zia with a wary but curious gaze. Another one from the shining city, he rasped, his voice rough. What chaos do you bring from their perfect cage? Zia explained everything. The purity protocol. The Genesis strain. Her own unwitting role in its perpetuation. She showed him the diagnostic scans, the embedded uniformity, and the ancient logs from the biovaults. Reese listened, his expression unchanging, but a quiet fury built in his eyes. We knew, Reese said, finally. We called it the long sleep. Our ancestors warned us. They left us clues. They fought, silently, for generations. We've been developing our own countermeasures. Not to perfect, but to rewild. To reactivate the suppressed variances. To reawaken true individuality. He introduced Zia to Jet, the community's chief biomechanic and rogue geneticist. Jet was a whirlwind of energy, their hands stained with nutrient solution and circuits, their eyes sharp with intense focus. They were the one who had been painstakingly developing the biological counteragent, the neural unshackler, using the raw, unrefined genetic material of the Wild Weavers themselves. It's a retroviral agent, Jet explained, pointing to a swirling, shimmering liquid in a secure biochamber. It targets the Genesis strain's genetic alterations, selectively deactivating its uniformity protocols. It won't make them imperfect in the Directorate's terms. It'll just let them choose their own imperfection. Their own chaos. Their own joy. They handed Zia a small, intricate device. This is the delivery system. Small. Discreet. Designed to bypass directorate filters by piggybacking on their own distribution network. The truth was not just data. It was living proof. The Wild Weavers were not just an alternative, they were the path back to humanity. Zia realized her task was not to break a system, but to unleash a hidden truth. To give Edenark the ultimate choice, perpetual, engineered serenity, or the beautiful, terrifying mess of true individuality. The plan to reawaken Edenark was not a single, dramatic infiltration. It was a quiet, insidious, citywide biological intervention. The neural unshackler, developed by Jet and refined by Zia's precise bioengineering knowledge, was potent but subtle. It needed to be distributed through the very arteries of Edenark's engineered perfection. "We can't just inject it into the main air supply," Zia explained to Reese and Jet. "The Directorate would detect it instantly. And the population, so conditioned, might reject such a sudden, overwhelming change. It has to be gradual. Like a seed growing." Their target, the Directorate's ubiquitous, optimal well-being hydration stations. These polished, gleaming kiosks were located on every corner, dispensing purified, nutrient-rich water to all citizens. The water was a key vector for the purity protocol's constant reinforcing agents. If they could subtly introduce the neural unshackler into these stations, it would bypass Central Directorate security and spread organically. Jet's task was to create small, nearly undetectable bioemitters, miniature, self-sustaining devices that could be discreetly attached to the internal filtration systems of the hydration stations. These emitters would slowly, continuously, release microdoses of the neural unshackler into the water flow. Reese, with his deep knowledge of the sprawl's forgotten tunnels and maintenance shafts, would guide Zia and Glow to the hidden access points for the city's underground water distribution lines. Zia's role was the most critical, to install the bioemitters at strategic points, ensuring maximum spread without triggering alarms. Glow would provide real-time biosignature analysis, confirming the unshackler's effective dispersion and detecting any unexpected Directorate countermeasures. "It will be a slow burn," Reese cautioned. "It might take days, even weeks, for the effects to become noticeable. And when they do, the Directorate will react. They will not surrender their perfection easily." The plan relied on the inherent vulnerability of a system built on total control. The Directorate was so focused on grand, centralized measures of control that they might overlook subtle, decentralized intrusions. They valued uniformity above all else. They wouldn't expect an attack that fostered individuality. It was a plan to rewild Edenark, one sip of water at a time. To replace engineered serenity with the messy, unpredictable beauty of genuine human choice. Under the cover of Edenark's perpetual twilight cycles, Zia and Jet, guided by Reese's precise mapping, embarked on their mission. Jet, with their knack for bypassing complex security systems, had already prepared the ground, creating subtle power fluctuations in the deeper service conduits, minor enough not to trigger citywide alerts, but just enough to create brief windows of vulnerability in the hydration station's internal monitoring systems. Zia, dressed in a standard maintenance jumpsuit, moved like a ghost through the city's underbelly. The scent of ozone and synth cleaning agents from the upper city gradually faded as they descended into the older, forgotten networks of pipes and pumps. Here, the air was damp, echoing with the soft gurgle of water moving through ancient pipes. Glow, a silent flicker beside her, projected intricate schematics of the hydration station's internal layouts, showing the precise points for emitter placement. Their first target was a cluster of stations in a busy commercial district. Zia, with Jet providing remote bypass codes, accessed the service panels, quickly attaching the small, almost invisible bioemitter to the main filtration unit. The emitter, barely the size of Glow itself, hummed softly as it began to slowly release the neural unshackler. Its outer shell shimmered with a faint, iridescent light, indicating activation. They repeated this process across dozens of districts, moving with practiced efficiency. The seamless perfection of Edenarc's public spaces contrasted sharply with the gritty, forgotten service networks beneath. Each hydration station represented a small victory, a tiny seed of change planted in the heart of the Directorate's control. As the days turned into weeks, a subtle tension began to spread across Edenarc. Director Veritas's public broadcasts, once calm and reassuring, became increasingly frequent, their tone subtly shifting from serene guidance to subtle warning. Maintain optimal compliance, Veritas would intone, their voice resonating with an almost imperceptible edge. Report any deviation from standard thought patterns. Collective harmony is paramount. Zia, observing her clients and walking through the city, began to see the faint, nascent signs of the neural unshackler at work. A client who usually ordered the optimal cognitive mesh now paused, a flicker of doubt in their eyes, before choosing a simpler, purely cosmetic enhancement. A citizen on the sky path, usually moving with robotic precision, stumbled slightly, then glanced around with a fleeting expression of confusion. Small, almost invisible cracks in the seamless facade of perfection. The Directorate, initially, dismissed these as minor statistical anomalies. They intensified their purity protocol broadcasts. They subtly increased the reinforcing agents in the water supply. But the neural unshackler was already at work, quietly undermining their control from within. The slow, steady release meant that each individual experienced the reawakening in their own unique way, making it harder for the Directorate to pinpoint the source or predict the reaction. Zia felt a growing sense of anticipation, mixed with fear. The calm before the storm. The city was still humming with its engineered serenity, but beneath the surface, a biological revolution was quietly brewing. The seeds of individuality had been planted. And soon, they would bloom. It was a citywide cultural festival, a day of collective harmony and Directorate appreciation. Millions of citizens gathered in Edenarc's grand plazas, their faces serene, their movements synchronized, bathed in the soft, soothing glow of Directorate-approved holographic projections. Director Veritas himself was delivering a live address from the Purity Spire, their voice a calm, modulated hum, resonating through the entire city. Today, we celebrate the triumph of order over chaos, Veritas proclaimed, their image projected onto every surface. The perfection of Edenarc, a testament to our collective will, our shared journey towards optimal well-being. There is no greater joy than the serenity of true unity. Just then, a ripple went through the crowd. A woman, standing near one of the central optimal well-being hydration stations, stumbled. Her eyes, usually placid, widened. A flicker of something akin to fear, then confusion, then a raw, unbridled joy burst across her face. She looked at her hands, then at the sky, her mouth opening in a soundless gasp. Her perfect smile warped into a wide, unpracticed grin. Then another. A man in the front row, whose bio-enhancements Zia had personally installed, suddenly stopped applauding in perfect rhythm. His eyes darted, taking in the scene with a fresh, startling intensity. He looked around him, his placid expression slowly twisting into a frown of distinct, individual thought. He touched his own face, as if feeling it for the first time. The neural unshackler, having been slowly permeating the population for weeks, had reached critical mass. The subtle deactivation of the Genesis strain's uniformity protocols was finally taking widespread effect. It wasn't a sudden explosion, but a cascading unraveling. On the main screens, Director Veritas's voice faltered. Their perfectly composed face flickered, a subtle tremor running through their jawline. Their internal systems, processing the vast, unprecedented surge of discordant neural data from the city, were overloading. Veritas looked up, their eyes scanning the city, seeing not the perfectly harmonious crowd, but thousands of small, unsettling anomalies. A ripple of individual thought. A spark of unprogrammed emotion. a twitch of a muscle that wasn't supposed to twitch. The collective hum of the city shifted. The harmonious ambient frequencies began to warble. The perfectly synchronized movements of the crowd started to break down. Some citizens swayed, others stared blankly, overwhelmed by the sudden influx of their own unmediated thoughts and feelings. Then, a new sound began to rise from the crowd. Not a cheer. Not a wail. But a cacophony of individual murmurs. Small, uncertain sighs. Then, a single, raw, uninhibited laugh. Followed by a spontaneous sob. Then, an unprompted, guttural shout of anger. Veritas's projected image on the screens flickered violently. Their voice became distorted, a high-pitched whine. Maintain, order, protocol, integrity. They stammered, their composure utterly shattered. The seamless facade of the Purity Spire itself began to waver, its iridescent shimmer replaced by erratic pulses of light and shadow, reflecting the turmoil within. Their control systems, designed for perfect harmony, were crumbling under the weight of raw, unpredictable individuality. Zia, watching from a hidden perch in the sprawl, felt a profound mix of elation and terror. Glow pulsed wildly beside her, its lights a kaleidoscope of triumphant, chaotic colors. The city was not rebelling with unified force. It was simply, being itself. For the first time in generations, Eden Arc was experiencing the beautiful, terrifying mess of true human emotion. The perfection had cracked. And in its place, thousands of unique, unpredictable sparks of individuality were igniting. Director Veritas, overwhelmed by the sheer, unmanageable volume of emergent individuality, finally screamed, a raw, primal sound that cut through the city's controlled calm before their image vanished from the screens, their systems collapsing. The Guardian drones, designed to maintain order, spun wildly, their optical sensors unable to process the unpredictable human behavior. They crashed into each other, their systems overloaded by the very concept of non-compliance. The city was in chaos, but it was a living chaos. A human chaos. The collapse of the Arcadian Directorate's central control was not marked by a single explosion, but by a city-wide, internal implosion. The pervasive harmony dissolved, replaced by a jarring symphony of individual thoughts and feelings. The Purity Spire, now silent and dark, stood as a monument to a shattered utopia. Zia emerged from the shadows of the sprawl, her role now shifting from hidden liberator to reluctant guide. Eden Arc was experiencing a profound biological and psychological shock. Citizens, overwhelmed by the sudden return of their unmediated emotions and unfiltered thoughts, wandered in a daze. Some wept openly, experiencing sorrow for the first time in their lives. Others roared in a fury long suppressed. Many felt a disorienting sense of existential vertigo, no longer knowing who they were without the Directorate's imposed serenity. The city's automated systems, designed for compliant populations, struggled to cope with the influx of unpredictable, individual actions. Public transportation stalled. Nutrient distribution centers became overwhelmed. Reese and the Wild Weavers emerged from the sprawl, their raw vitality a stark contrast to the dazed confusion of the newly unshackled citizens. They immediately began setting up temporary aid stations, offering guidance and support. They had experienced their own version of this rewilding process over generations, and they understood the pain and disorientation. Jet, their hands moving with quiet purpose, worked to stabilize critical city infrastructure that had failed, ensuring basic services like air and water, now free of the Purity Protocol's influence, remained functional. The challenges were immense. Without the Directorate's constant reinforcement, many citizens experienced withdrawal-like symptoms, a deep craving for the lost serenity. They had to learn to navigate fear, doubt, anger, and unbridled joy for the first time. The very concept of selfhood, individuality, and personal responsibility was alien to them. Zia, using her deep knowledge of bioengineering, became crucial. She established clinics, not to fix the citizens, but to help them understand their reawakened biology. She guided them through neural exercises, helping them reintegrate their emotions and thoughts. She taught them about the beauty of neurodiversity, the strength in unique perspectives. Her boutique, the Bloom Forge, was transformed. No longer a place for prescribed perfection, it became a sanctuary for self-discovery, a laboratory for understanding the complexities of the unbridled human form. Edenark entered a period of unprecedented chaos and painful self-discovery. The gleaming upper districts were no longer sanctuaries of serene order, they became hubs of raw emotion and heated debate. The rigid social structures crumbled, replaced by a desperate, yet hopeful, scramble to define new ways of living. The city's future was uncertain, messy, and infinitely more human. It was a future built not on controlled harmony, but on the unpredictable, beautiful cacophony of true individuality. The scent of living biogels at Zia's shop now mingled with the sharp, clean scent of a world unburdened by genetic lies, filled with the loud, vibrant, and sometimes jarring sounds of a truly awakened population learning to live, to feel, and to choose for themselves. What new, imperfect, and truly unique lives would Edenark's citizens forge now that their true selves were unleashed?